wolves living in the nuclear wasteland of Chernobyl appear to have developed a resistance to cancer.
In 1986, a failed safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear plant caused a huge explosion, releasing 400 times more radiation than the bomb on Hiroshima. The Soviet army quickly evacuated 100,000 people, giving them only hours to pack and leave. They marked off a 1,000 square kilometer zone around the reactor, calling the land dead forever. But nature refused to listen and began its own return. In 2014, Dr. Kara Love turned her attention to one of the most unlikely survivors on Earth, the wolves of Chernobyl. Living inside the exclusion zone, these wolves roam through radioactive forests where humans dare not stay. What her research revealed was astonishing. In only 15 generations, the wolves had developed DNA repair systems that gave them a surprising resistance to radiation. Despite living in constant danger, their genetics seem to shield them from cancer. The numbers are staggering. Each day, the wolves are exposed to radiation levels 6 times higher than what is legally considered safe for humans. To put that in perspective, it's like receiving the dose of a chest X-ray every single day of their lives. By human standards, this should be deadly. Yet the wolves are not only surviving, they are thriving. Natural selection has moved at remarkable speed, shaping them into a population uniquely suited for this dangerous environment. Dr. Love and her team at Princeton University have been following these wolves closely since 2014. With the help of GPS collars equipped with radiation sensors, they track their movements across the wastelands. Blood samples tell an even more dramatic story. The wolves' immune systems show changes similar to what doctors see in cancer patients undergoing radiation therapy. Except here, the changes are not signs of weakness, but of adaptation. Deeper genetic analysis uncovered the secret. The wolves carry rare mutations clustered in genes linked to immunity and anti-tumor defenses. These mutations act as natural safeguards, protecting the wolves' cells from DNA damage that would normally lead to cancer. Over just 8 or 9 generations, these traits have been passed on, spreading through the population like a shield against radiation. The discovery is more than just a story of survival. For scientists, it holds powerful lessons. Most cancer research searches for dangerous mutations that increase risk. But Chernobyl's wolves show the other side, mutations that protect. By studying these genetic defenses, researchers may uncover new ways to fight cancer and improve radiation therapy, drawing inspiration from nature's most unlikely survivors. During World War II, a small and quiet Japanese island named Okunoshima carried a secret so dark it was erased from maps, as though it never existed. Hidden from the world, this unremarkable place became the site of a factory that produced thousands of tons of deadly chemical weapons, mustard gas, tear gas, and other toxic agents. Workers moved through the halls in protective suits, believing themselves shielded, but the truth was cruel. The poisons they handled seeped silently into their bodies, leaving scars and sickness that would follow them for life. For decades afterward, the island's ruins stood as a chilling reminder of that hidden past. Crumbling buildings, rusting pipes, and abandoned storage tanks lay scattered across a landscape that seemed frozen in silence, as if nature itself recoiled from the horror once created there. Then, in 1971, everything changed. 8 white laboratory rabbits were released onto the island, their bright fur glowing against the backdrop of decay. They were not survivors of the earlier tragedy. Those animals had long since perished. These were newcomers, innocent of the ground's history. Yet their arrival began a transformation no one foresaw. From that moment, Okunoshima slowly shifted, from a place of shadows into one of surreal beauty. In 1925, Japan signed the Geneva Protocol, a global treaty banning the use of chemical and biological weapons in war. To the outside world, this looked like a step toward peace, a promise that humanity would rise above the horrors of gas and plague. But behind closed doors, Japan's military leaders had no intention of keeping that promise. Instead, they quietly began planning their own chemical weapons program. All they needed was a location, hidden, isolated, and discreet, yet still close enough to ports and rail lines for supplies and secrecy. They found their answer in Okunoshima, a small island in the Sato Inland Sea. Barely 2.5 miles around, it was remote enough to vanish from attention, but perfectly placed for military transport. In 1929, construction began on one of Japan's darkest projects, a chemical weapons factory. The island was erased from maps, its very existence swallowed by silence. Workers were bound by strict secrecy, warned that speaking out could mean prison or even death. Many did not understand what they were making until their bodies began to fail. Rashes spread across their skin, their lungs burned, and illnesses took root. Between 1929 and 1945, the factory produced over 6,000 tons of poison gas, mustard, tear, and other lethal agents. These weapons were unleashed across Asia, particularly in China, where victims endured unspeakable agony. When World War II ended in 1945, the United States discovered the facility during its occupation of Japan. Yet instead of exposing Japan's violation of the Geneva Protocol, US forces covered it up. Documents were burned, machines dismantled, and buildings stripped bare. The island's story was buried, hidden in silence once more. The workers returned home, many scarred for life, carrying illnesses that haunted them for decades. But their suffering went unrecognized. Japan did not officially acknowledge Okunoshima's chemical weapons program until 1988, over 40 years too late. By then, survivors had waited lifetimes for justice, their families left with only fragments of truth and the weight of secrets carved into their history. After the war, Okunoshima was left to silence. The once bustling buildings stood empty, their broken windows and crumbling walls serving as haunting reminders of a darker past. Tourists were few, and those who came were drawn not by beaches or beauty, but by ruins steeped in tragedy. The only permanent residents were caretakers at a small inn, built in hopes of luring visitors to the island's shores. Yet nature had already begun its quiet work. Grass pushed stubbornly through cracks in the concrete, vines crept across rusting walls, and trees slowly spread their roots, reclaiming what humans had scarred. A place once defined by destruction began, little by little, to heal. Then, in 1971, an event both ordinary and extraordinary changed Okunoshima forever: the arrival of 8 rabbits. Their origins remain uncertain, wrapped in stories and speculation. One tale claims that schoolchildren on a field trip released them, their soft white fur bright against the ruins. Another insists they were descendants of test animals once used in the chemical plant, somehow escaping or set free when the facility closed. Some believe workers, carrying guilt for the past, released the rabbits as an unspoken apology. Others suggest the animals came from abandoned pets left behind by tourists during the 1970s. Whatever their true beginning, the 8 rabbits found paradise. The island offered no predators, endless grass and vegetation, and a mild climate that made survival easy. They thrived. Within years, their numbers swelled. By the late 1970s, visitors reported dozens of rabbits darting through the ruins and fields. By the early 1980s, their population had exploded into the hundreds. The rabbits had not only survived, they had claimed the island, transforming it into something astonishingly new. As the rabbit population expanded, so did their encounters with people. Unlike most wild rabbits, which remain shy and quick to flee, the rabbits of Okunoshima grew fearless. They learned that humans meant food, carrots, pellets, and snacks of every kind. Tourists arriving by ferry were often greeted the moment they stepped ashore, surrounded by eager bunnies hopping at their feet. Some rabbits boldly climbed into laps, pawed at bags, or even leapt into strollers, delighting visitors who had never seen such tame creatures. This unusual behavior, paired with the island's strange history, quickly began to draw attention. By the early 2000s, Okunoshima's rabbits had become an internet sensation. Videos of fluffy swarms chasing tourists or nibbling from outstretched hands spread across social media. The island's image transformed overnight. Once defined by secrecy and chemical warfare, Okunoshima was reborn with a softer name: Rabbit Island, a place of peace, charm, and whimsy. Tourists from across the globe arrived in growing numbers, eager to walk among the famous bunnies. Yet the sudden fame came with complications. By the 2000s, the rabbit population had soared past 1,000. With so much food freely given, many animals abandoned their natural diet of grasses and wild plants, choosing instead to depend on handouts. Concerns grew over their health, with some rabbits showing signs of malnutrition despite constant feeding. Meanwhile, the surge of tourism put new pressure on the island itself. Litter, habitat strain, and crowding raised urgent questions about balance. Could Okunoshima remain both a haven for rabbits and a destination for people, or would its popularity threaten the very creatures that made it famous? In 2019, researchers observing Okunoshima's rabbits uncovered something no one expected. The animals had built a complex social hierarchy, unlike anything ever documented in feral rabbit populations. Each colony claimed its own territory, often centered around the island's ruined structures. The most remarkable of these was Building 6, once a gas storage facility. Here, the rabbits displayed startlingly organized behavior, living almost like a miniature society. Older rabbits often perched on higher ledges, scanning the horizon while younger ones grazed below. When rain fell, the colony moved upward, avoiding rising water. During hot summers, they retreated into the cooler lower chambers. The rabbits rotated these duties at regular intervals, almost like soldiers changing shifts. Researchers named the practice the changing of the guard, a phrase that captured the eerie precision of their movements. This discovery challenged long-held assumptions about wild rabbits, proving their ability to adapt and organize in ways never imagined. The rabbits also developed an intricate warning system. Using thermal imaging, scientists tracked how they responded to nocturnal threats. When an owl or other predator appeared in the sky, lookouts delivered alerts, not with cries, but with thumping feet. Each pattern of thumps carried a distinct signal, and the vibrations traveled through the concrete ruins to warn the entire group. Instantly, the colony reacted, scattering, hiding, or freezing in silence until the danger passed. This unexpected level of cooperation revealed a truth that stunned researchers. The rabbits of Okunoshima were not simply surviving, they were evolving, reshaping their environment into a fortress of survival. One of the most surprising consequences of the rabbits' presence on Okunoshima was their unlikely role in protecting the island's haunted ruins. When the population first began to swell, preservationists grew anxious. They feared that endless burrowing, chewing, and scurrying across the old chemical plant would damage the fragile structures beyond repair. To many, it seemed inevitable that the constant activity of hundreds of rabbits would hasten collapse. But instead, something remarkable happened. The rabbits' burrows helped the earth breathe, allowing rainwater to drain away instead of pooling and eroding foundations. Their constant grazing kept invasive plants from smothering the ruins, holding back vines that might have torn down the walls. Without realizing it, the rabbits had become silent caretakers, small guardians of the very buildings once built for secrecy and war. Even more astonishing was their effect on the land itself. Scientists later found that parts of the soil still carried traces of arsenic and other toxins left behind from chemical weapons. Yet the rabbits thrived. Their daily digging and feeding stirred the ground, spreading vegetation and accelerating the slow breakdown of contaminants. What began as concern turned into wonder. The creatures once feared as destroyers had instead become stewards of history, healers of the land. Against all odds, Okunoshima's darkest scars were being softened by rabbits. As Okunoshima's popularity grew, so did the challenges of managing its rabbits and the growing wave of tourists. What was once a quiet island with a hidden colony became a busy destination, and the animals were at the heart of it all. The rabbits, spoiled by constant handouts, began to face health issues. Some refused grass and plants, demanding pellets or packaged treats instead. Others grew obese or developed dental problems from sugary snacks given by visitors. A population that had once thrived naturally was now showing signs of dependence on humans. The island itself also suffered. The rapidly multiplying rabbits overgrazed certain areas, while burrows weakened the soil and contributed to erosion. To protect the balance, authorities stepped in. Cats and dogs were banned to prevent predation, and tourists were urged to purchase approved rabbit food to provide safer nutrition. But a greater threat loomed beyond human control: climate change. Rabbits are sensitive to extreme heat, and rising temperatures put them at risk. In 2014, a brutal heatwave killed dozens through dehydration and heat stress. In response, officials installed water stations and shaded shelters, vital steps to help the rabbits survive in an uncertain future. Despite its difficulties, Okunoshima today stands as a symbol of renewal. Once hidden from maps and burdened by its wartime legacy, the island has been redefined by its rabbits. These creatures, whether descended from laboratory animals or released pets, have turned a place of secrecy and suffering into one of life and resilience. Okunoshima now holds a dual identity, a site of history and a sanctuary for wildlife. Tourists come to learn about the past, but are met by playful rabbits that hop through the ruins, a contrast that highlights nature's power to heal. The scars of chemical warfare remain in abandoned buildings, yet they share space with laughter and joy. For descendants of the workers who once toiled here, the island offers a chance for reconciliation. Okunoshima has become a living testament to survival, showing how life can grow even from the darkest of soil. As Okunoshima moves into the future, it faces a mix of challenges and opportunities. Climate change, the impact of tourism, and the well-being of its famous rabbit population are all critical issues that demand careful planning. Rising temperatures during Japan's increasingly hot summers pose one of the greatest threats, as rabbits are highly vulnerable to heat stress. To help them survive, more shaded areas and water stations are being installed across the island. At the same time, conservationists have raised concerns about the strain of tourism. Proposals to limit the number of daily visitors are being considered to protect both the rabbits and the fragile ecosystem they now depend on. In 2023, the Japanese government began debating official protection status for Okunoshima's rabbits. If granted, it would be the first such designation for a feral rabbit population in Japan. This recognition would not only safeguard the animals, but also honor their remarkable role in transforming Okunoshima into a sanctuary of peace, life, and renewal. The dogs of Chernobyl have become extraordinary symbols of survival in a land long defined by disaster. Descended from pets abandoned during the 1986 nuclear disaster, these animals have interbred over decades, creating a unique population of radioactive mutts. Unlike the purebred dogs that once roamed Pripyat, today's canines are a mix of breeds, with sturdy frames, piercing eyes, and coats in shades of white, black, and brown. Despite their feral instincts, many are surprisingly social, having learned to coexist with the small number of humans who continue to work in the exclusion zone. The Chernobyl exclusion zone, a 30-kilometer radius surrounding the destroyed reactor, remains one of the most radioactive places on Earth. Yet the dogs have adapted to life in ways that continue to baffle scientists. Radiation levels are uneven across the zone, but the animals are chronically exposed to low-level radiation that accumulates in their bodies over time. Remarkably, they show few obvious signs of sickness, such as tumors or deformities, highlighting an extraordinary resilience that allows them to survive and reproduce where other animals would perish. These dogs are more than survivors. They are living laboratories. Researchers are particularly interested in potential genetic mutations that may protect them from radiation-induced damage, echoing findings in Chernobyl's wolves. Their ability to thrive under constant environmental stress offers insights into adaptation, genetics, and the long-term effects of radiation exposure on living beings. In a place once synonymous with devastation, the dogs of Chernobyl stand as a testament to endurance and adaptation. Their survival offers hope and inspiration, showing that even in the most toxic and unforgiving conditions, life can find a way, persist, and flourish against all odds. Now come to the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster that occurred on March 11, 2011, in northeastern Japan. It was triggered by a massive 9.0 magnitude earthquake off the Japanese coast, which led to a devastating tsunami. The earthquake caused the reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant to automatically shut down, a standard safety procedure. However, the subsequent tsunami, with waves exceeding the plant's design specifications, flooded critical systems. This flooding resulted in a loss of power, disabling the cooling systems essential for maintaining safe reactor temperatures. Without cooling, the reactor cores began to overheat, leading to partial meltdowns in 3 of the 6 reactors. The overheating also caused the release of hydrogen gas, which accumulated and eventually led to explosions that damaged the reactor buildings. These events resulted in the release of radioactive materials into the environment, prompting widespread evacuations and long-term environmental and health concerns. After the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, people fled the area, leaving towns, villages, and farmlands completely abandoned. Into this empty landscape moved wild boars, taking advantage of the quiet, human-free environment. With farms and fields left untended, the boars found ample food, roots, crops, mushrooms, and small animals to sustain a rapidly growing population. Yet the land was not safe. Radioactive materials, especially cesium, had contaminated the soil and vegetation, and the boars ingested these toxins through their diet. Over time, the animals themselves became radioactive. Surprisingly, the boars showed few visible signs of illness. Researchers studying them found little DNA damage or stress markers, suggesting an unexpected resilience to chronic radiation exposure. Despite carrying significant radioactive contamination, the animals continued to forage, reproduce, and thrive in the abandoned areas. As people began returning to Fukushima, the boars became a major challenge. Their growing numbers caused damage to farms, gardens, and property. Managing the animals was further complicated by the radiation they carried, making handling, hunting, or culling dangerous for humans. In short, Fukushima's wild boars are living proof of nature's adaptability. They took over empty lands, absorbed radiation without obvious harm, and now pose a complex challenge as humans resettle the region, a reminder of how life persists even in the shadow of disaster. The stories of Okunoshima and Chernobyl reveal the incredible resilience of life in the face of human-made disasters. From the rabbits of Okunoshima reclaiming an island once scarred by chemical weapons to the wolves and dogs of Chernobyl developing traits that help them survive radiation, nature shows an extraordinary ability to adapt, endure, and even thrive in the harshest conditions. These remarkable examples remind us that life finds a way, transforming devastation into ecosystems that flourish against all odds. By studying these animals and their environments, we gain not only scientific insights, but also a deeper appreciation for the power of adaptation, the interconnectedness of all living things, and the persistent strength of nature's will. And that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed this journey into some of the world's most astonishing stories of survival. If you did, leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible content. Thank you for watching.